Welcome to Rauta. This video is done in commercial collaboration with our sponsor, Steelfest. Hello and welcome to Rauta's Underground Trio, new episode out, and once again, this time we have three different bands of different styles for you to check out, or maybe just ignore. As is the case with Underground Trio videos, these are focusing on bands with maximum of 2 albums out, so mostly those bands that are not that experienced, successful, veterans, etc. so far. Be it as may, we'll first go to a hardcore band. So hence we are not having here a Metal Archives link because Sense of Justice hasn't been approved to Metal Archives, and this could be justified as not metal enough. But if you ask me, well, these guys are heavier than a lot of bands out there on Metal Archives. Just my perception, but I'm not the judge, I'm not the boss of that. Be it as may, here it is on Indie 5. I think it's metal enough for me to include it here on Rauta, part of Underground Trio video. Now, this band plays some kind of a hardcore in metallic way. It's a little bit crusty, definitely hardcore side. Is it metal enough for you people out there? I don't know. I'm not gonna be the judge of that, but like I said, this is in my opinion metal enough to justify its existence in terms of that. Now, if you're looking for something new, something out of ordinary and all that stuff, you have probably come to the wrong address, or maybe you're just going to skip this one because this is very, very much leaning to the basics of hardcore, metallic or otherwise. Young at Heart is heavy pounding release that is full of energy, full of that kind of passion that hardcore music is known for. And this is not going to break a ground in any ways. This is not a groundbreaking album in any standards, but is it listenable and to some degree enjoyable? Definitely. That is, you have to kind of embrace the rather masculine vocals, which kind of a grunting and giving you a punch load of attitude right there with some heavy riffs, proper production and all that stuff. If this already sounds rather familiar when you're exploring the world of hardcore punk and so forth, well, it's exactly that. Now, while there's nothing majorly wrong, I don't know if majorly is actually the right word, but I'm going to use it just for the sake of it. The thing here is, this is much like a genre album that, the next guy next door, that is to hear to say, it is not bringing you any kind of a new news. It's more like, yeah, this is kind of a hardcore stuff made by fans who just like hardcore stuff. It's not creating anything new, it's not challenging the classics, it's not exploring new territories and whatnot. So it's kind of a safe bet. But then again, it justifies its existence with the kind of attitude and heavy pounding riffs which are there to just deliver you the kind of a blows you're expecting for. Basically, it's exactly the same that a lot of old school death metal bands are doing. They're not creating anything new, but they're copying selected pieces from those classic albums, and as such, it's kind of serving the audience. So can I recommend Young at Heart to people out there? Yes, definitely, if you're a big fan of hardcore stuff. Now, can I recommend it to anybody else? Not really, I guess. You're kind of a safer to more like learn about the basics of the genre and figure out if you are really in for a treat. So kind of a hard trick in a way. I mean, I could imagine this band would be, very energetic and meaningful live. But as an album, it's kind of a one-trick pony. Once you have heard a couple of songs, you pretty much know how the rest goes. For some people, it's a kind of a blessing in disguise. And for the rest of us, it's more like, yeah, I kind of get it, but it's not my cup of tea. Definitely worth checking out if you're into the genre, but for others, not so much. The second band on this video is rather new, a band from Finland called Moonlight, Sorcery, and this is melodic black metal with a capital M. What makes this differ from the rest of us is an interesting point because this kind of a showcase is a lot of power metal type of guitar leads and especially solos. It's almost like Yngwie J. Malmsteen decided to do a little bit of black metal guitaring and as such take it to a more like power heavy metal kind of a territory. Other than that, this is mostly fast tempo, melodic black metal, the way it has been done since early days of the 90s. I mean, you have the fast tempo, the drum is just blast beating pretty much all the way through these 25 minutes of an MCD piercing through the frozen eternity. And the guitars, well, they do melodies. And then there are synths which are there to just kind of do somewhat budget version of Emperor kind of stuff. So everything here is pretty basic, except for those rather power metallic guitars. Now, it's hard to say if people are actually going to like it. For me, it took a little while to figure it out. Like this sounds kind of a familiar, like if you're having a, I don't know, pizza, and then you just drop on some weird fruits on that. I'm not going to mention pineapple, mind you, because that's kind of a way too common for this kind of a metaphor. But the point here is, it's almost like, yeah, everything else seems to be pretty basic and safe. And you're like, I get those blast beats, fast tempo melodies, and screamy vocals, and kind of a thin but still clear enough production. But what the hell is this fruit here? What the hell is this banana doing its thing on my basic pizza? For some people, it's gonna be the magic ingredient that really separates this from the rest. And for the other people, it's gonna be the one that actually ruins it. Like, why are these guitar solos here to begin with? Now, be it as it may, this is something that you need to figure out for yourself whether or not it's gonna crack the cookie for you or not. I'm in the middle. I kind of like it, and that it's the ingredient that actually brings something different to this kind of black metal. But on the other hand, beyond that, it sounds kind of a basic. It's a kind of a basic B class black metal that is very very easy to listen to, and to a certain degree, once again, enjoy. But after the MCD or MLP is done, you're just like, what sticks to my mind? Those guitar solos. So it's kind of like a work in progress kind of a band. That being said, 5 years in and only two EPs out basically. So the band is still very much evolving, and hard to say what is going to happen when the band actually finds themselves doing an album and like, this is it. This is how we evolved for the very first album. At least the band has something interesting going on. Will it be nailing it later on? That remains to be seen. But so far, something interesting, something very basic, something very forgettable. The last and the best of the pile also comes from Finland, and it's called Rodent Epoch. This band has been there for like 14 years already, but it never actually got to be super active. However, throughout the years, the band has done demo, EP, and now a couple of full albums. Now, when I heard the band first time around 2012, it was this With the Army of Rats We Came compilation with Put EOR and Hellbastard releases, you know, in one of the same package. Now, this was actually 2016, but I remember listening to the band with the Hellbastard 2012, so mind me confusing these titles. But anyway, Hellbastard was like something decentish going on, not exactly really good. And when this compilation came out, it included Hellbastard and the EOR, so it was like recapturing the second release and the first release included. And yeah, they were like, something is happening, but not really convincing me with it with that stuff. Now, Rodent Lord, however, 2018 was actually pretty good of an album. What it lacks was the kind of a catchiness and some kind of originality that would really separate it from the rest. But already going way better direction than those two previous releases. Now, 4 years after that comes Hidden Temple, 2022, second album, and this is kind of a good, but also kind of a lukewarm experience. So let's just call it decent for the sake of it. This Rodent release is actually reminding me of a couple of bands from Norway. So instead of sounding like a Finnish black metal release in so many ways, this actually reminds me of, well, Norwegian black metal bands, namely Carpathian Forest and Orgel. And some of those best riffs are really, really good. They're almost like, yeah, no, it's the Finnish version of Orgel, Carpathian Forest kind of thing happening. And that's where the band is nailing. It's really like doing good stuff and causing waves. But the other part is more like lukewarmish. It's like filler before killer kind of a stuff, which is there to just like, okay, I am totally fine with it, but is it just causing me to like spend my money? I want to buy this one. Not really. So it's a kind of a bumpy road with ups and downs, high points and low points. And overall, I would say Hidden Temple is not as good as the previous album, Rodent Lord. Definitely something interesting is happening, but in my opinion, the band really, really should focus on picking the best parts. Just like throwing out the bone and picking the meat out of it and just make it sounding good. But overall, definitely something interesting is happening, and I hope by the third album the band is finally able to nail the best parts and make it worthwhile a release. This is worth listening to, but is it worth blindly buying for? Not so much. So do your homework, listen to the music, and figure out for yourself. In my opinion, this is the best of the pile, but all these are pretty decent. No weak points here as such, even if not killer material either. So decide for yourself. Links are included in the description box, so I hope you like them. See ya with the next episode coming up in a week or so.